Things get bad. In a few hours, the fourth graders were all packed in a hot, sticky factory listening to a boring speech about how trees are turned into tissues, or something like that. Nobody was paying attention, really, except for Melvin Sneedley, who was terrified. His whole body shook and shimmered as the tour took them down the narrow walkways of the noisy industrial plant. Finally, the tour ended at the gift shop, where the plant manager, Mr. Snoddy, had a surprise for everybody. "Behind the red curtain, with black dots on it," said Mr. Snoddy, "is a free gift for each of you." Mr. Snoddy pulled back the curtain to reveal a pile of sample tissue packs. "Help yourself," said Mr. Snoddy. "There's enough for everybody." "No!" screamed Melvin. "Me no like tissues." "Oh, don't be silly," said Mr. Snoddy. "Everybody loves tissues, and our tissues are extra absorbent. They really help to wipe out the phlegm and mucus." "No!" screamed Melvin. "Tissue is bad magic." "Nonsense," laughed Mr. Snoddy. He tossed a couple of sample tissue packets at Melvin. "Here you go, young man," he said. "Enjoy." The tissue packs flipped through the air and stuck onto Melvin's back. Melvin screamed. His eyes began to go green, and he beat his chest in anger. Suddenly, Melvin's shoulders started to bubble. His chest expanded. The flexo grew monic still, and Melvin's endoskeleton flexed and grew. His neck and head widened, and his body swelled to the height of 13 feet. Oh boy, guess he's allergic to tissues. Melvin grabbed the tissue packs in his massive dripping fingers and flung them to the ground. "Don't make me angry," Melvin warned. "You no like me when I angry." "Oops," said Mr. Snoddy. "You dropped your tissue packs, young fellow. Here's some more for you." Mr. Snoddy grabbed 2 giant handfuls of sample tissue packs and tossed them at Melvin. Things get badder. There's not even a word as badder. Should say things get worse, but that's part of the fun of this book. Frantically, Melvin swatted at the 9 new tissue packs stuck to his upper torso as if they were a swarm of stinging bumblebees. He stomped his giant spiked feet and thrashed about violently as his hulking body doubled then tripled in size. Melvin kicked and punched the walls of the gift shop as he let out a terrifying, blood-curdling cry. Yeah, he really doesn't like tissues. "There's no need to cry, little man," said Mr. Snoddy. "Here, have some more tissues to dry those tears." He tossed several more sample tissue packs at Melvin. As you might have noticed by now, Mr. Snoddy wasn't exactly the brightest bulb in the Hanukkah tree. What happened next could only be described as chaos. Once again, Melvin's massive body tripled in size. By now, Melvin was roaring and kicking and knocking over giant machines. Children screamed and ran. Mr. Snoddy thought it might help matters if he could just give Melvin some more tissues. But before he could, a drop of mucus the size of a bathtub dripped from Melvin's massive nose and splashed down on Mr. Snoddy, gluing him to the floor. Splat. George and Harold hid behind the red curtain with black dots on it as Melvin crashed through the roof of the factory. Ear-piercing roars bellowed out of the gigantic, oozing mouth as he kicked down the walls of the factory and tossed heavy machinery into the parking lot. Mr. Krupp and Miss Anthrop tried their best to get the situation under control, but they weren't having much luck either. Uh-oh. Booger Boy has gone crazy. "Hey, Bob!" shouted Mr. Krupp. "I've had just about enough of your shenanigans. You're going to be spending the afternoon in detention if you don't settle down, young man," shouted Miss Anthrop. "Look, the whole factory is a mess." Suddenly, Melvin reached down and grabbed Miss Anthrop in his massive metal fist. "Help me!" she screamed. "Somebody save me!" "Ahem," said Mr. Krupp nervously. I'll go get some help." Mr. Krupp ran and hid with George and Harold behind the red curtain with black dots on it. "Hey, I thought you were going to get some help," said Harold. "Well, not today," said Mr. Krupp. "You know," said George, "there's only one person who can help Miss Anthrop now." "Who's that?" asked Mr. Krupp. Who's it going to be? I just can't guess. You will find out when we read chapter 20 and 21. Till then, bye-bye.